Dropping things. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, guys. Sorry, I was trying to find some cords that I've now lost, which is not good because they're from my microphone. So that's not fun. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. Let me get TikTok rolling here, and then we'll get rolling. Beep. Live. Oh, hang on. I got to change the heading of my live. I just did a quick little one this morning for quick and easy on TikTok. Hang on. There we go. All right, got a nice headline. The mods are going to love Russia shoots down plan. No, plane. Hold on, guys. 1 second. Where are my glasses? Here are my glasses. One moment, all. Russia shoots down plane. Per US. There we go. Good enough. Good enough. That'll get the trolls going. Russia shoots down plane. You think? Hold on, guys. I'm almost ready. Almost ready. 1 second here. La la la. Anyway, hope Christmas was good for all. We had lots of folks over, which was very nice. Hang on a second here. Lots of food, which was very nice as well. We can try that. All right. I'm ready to go public. Ready to go public. There we go. Go live. Go live. Actually, none of this is going to work very well, is it? I don't think so. I think this has been difficult on multiple levels. All right, there we go. TikTok is live enough. Boom. Mirror your image. All right. Excellent. Excellent. All right, TikTok we got. YouTube, you're going to get a hint of a tree. Anyway, all right. I'm ready now, finally. That took a while. Anyway, welcome all. How are you guys all doing today? Hello, TikTokers. How are we all doing as well? Amanda, Daryl. I'm trying to remember at home. Yeah, I do have my TikTok on my right side. I'm trying to remember where everything is. It's still weird doing this long distance. Anyway, I will sit back a minute. How's everybody doing? Merry Christmas, all. Oh, who is that? Chezak. Thank you, Chezak, for the gift. Thank you, Elizabeth. Hey, Andre, à Quebec. Salut. Yeah, so welcome, guys. Another day. Actually, tomorrow we will not be doing a show because I'm flying back to DC finally. Thank you, Cool, for the gift. So today show, tomorrow no show, Saturday morning show. So I'll do my normal Saturday morning show for the paid monthly subscribers and members. John Corley, I'm not sure what you're talking about on YouTube. I don't know what you're talking about there. Oh, was that somebody else you guys were recommending that I get on the show? I'm forgetting who Peter is. Hey, Pedro, thank you for the gift. Just remind me. Anyway, we do meet once. Oh, there is a rat person. Hey, rat lady. I'll call you rat lady. That's even better. Rat lady. Sister is upstairs. If she pops down and wants to be met, she had gotten some acupuncture like a week plus ago, and it gave her a big bruise on the face. So she was like, I'm not going online, although I didn't even notice it now. It may be sufficiently better, but you gotta, we'll have to see first. Oh, hello. Thank you for, was it M. Fuller? That one always cracks me up. Oh, just a hamster. It's a cute hamster. Hey, Big Mike, thank you for the gift. Anyway, so welcome, guys. Welcome to the show. So this is the show we talk about the latest news from Ukraine. We also talk about international relations generally. We also talk a lot about U.S. politics. Today's show, I'm pulling up as we're talking today. Okay amount of news. There isn't a ton of news. I mean, there's some big news, but there isn't a ton of news. But I think typically the way we do this will give us enough to talk about anyway. So it's also Callum's birthday today. Actually, yesterday or the day before? Actually, was it the day before Christmas? What was Callum's birthday? Remind me, mods. Was it yesterday or the day before? I'm forgetting now. But either way, happy birthday to 2 days ago. Thanks, Big Hawk. So happy birthday to Callum. Ashley, I don't know if you can see. We were trying to. Oh, the chair's in the way. Oh, wait. Can't. Oh, we've got them off. We put the lights on and forgot to put them on. The lights you got for Kathy, we set them up and then we forgot to turn them on. Hold on a moment. There we go. There we go. There we go. See, very pretty, except they kind of get in the way. It's hard to sort of showcase them with me here. I was trying to do this, but a little bit. That may work. That may work. Thank you, Uncle Stevie. They do look cute. I am visiting my sister in the Chicago suburbs, Susan, and I will be back in DC tomorrow night. But I do not get back in time to do the show because I'm going to be flying during the show, hopefully not delayed. Thank you, Darian. So I will be back Saturday morning for the weekly show I do for the paid monthly subscribers on TikTok, YouTube, Discord, and otherwise I'll be back Monday for everybody. So let's get rolling while we're at this. So what was I going to tell you? We hit Callum's birthday. Excellent. Today is day 1035 of Vladimir Putin's special military operation, 3-day special military operation. Russia launched a major Christmas Day missile attack against Ukraine. Drones and missiles going after Ukrainian cities, trying to go after their electrical infrastructure again, basically trying to freeze the Ukrainians to death over the winter. Lovely people that they are, the Russians, that is. The really big news of the last 24 hours is, I'm trying to think of how to say this fairly. Let me put it this way. This is the fairest way to put it. A U.S. official now says that Russia was likely the culprit in shooting down a civilian airliner on Christmas Day. 40 people were killed, approximately 40 people. 28 people or so survived the plane crash. It was a civilian airliner. Not only does it now appear that Russia shot the civilian airliner down yesterday, it also appears that Russia may have tried to hide the crime by killing everybody on board. This is a crazy story. In other words, they may have tried to kill these people twice on the plane. The plane is flying from Azerbaijan to Russia. And Azerbaijan used to be part of the Soviet Union, right? So they and Russia were part of the Soviet Union. Now they're free. And a civilian airliner flying from Azerbaijan to Russia, flying across the Caspian Sea. And thank you, Cricket, for the gift. Do keep the gifts coming, guys. I always forget to ask you for the gifts, but I do this for free and I do it full time. So the gifts pay my bills. So please keep them coming. Thank you, Cricket, again. The plane is flying from Azerbaijan to Russia, okay? Something goes wrong. Now, I will tell you what we know, okay? Thank you, adventurers. What we know is, I think it was Azerbaijan, actually. No, Kazakhstan is where the plane crashed. Azerbaijan, I believe, is where it started. What we know is this plane flying to Russia has a problem. Something goes catastrophically wrong, and they've got to land. They're flying to Grozny in Russia, in Chechnya, in Russia. Instead of the Russians letting this plane that has gone catastrophically wrong, the pilots are trying to hold the plane together, literally having a hard time even controlling the plane. Civilian airplane, like 68 civilians, a civilian plane going from Kazakhstan to Russia. Something catastrophically goes wrong. The plane has to land. Thank you, adventurers, for the gift. The airline asks the Russians, not the Kazakh, the Azeri airline says to the Russians, we need to land this plane now. Can we get like an emergency landing at the Grozny airport, which is the airport we were supposed to land at anyway? What do you think the Russians said? Okay, a civilian plane is in danger. 68 lives are at risk. The pilots say we're having a hard time controlling this plane. Something went catastrophically wrong. Can we land at the airport that we were flying to anyway? Right? Thank you, KT. Thank you, John. It's a plane that was flying to Grozny, Russia. The Russians in Grozny, Russia say, no, you may not land. But again, this is the airport the flight was flying to. The flight was booked. It's the regularly scheduled flight to Grozny, Russia. But now that the plane is falling apart, the Russians say, no, you can't land. Why is that, right? They try a second airport in Russia. You may not land. These are civilian airports. A third civilian airport in Russia. You may not land. The plane has to turn around and go back across the sea. Now, Grozny was reportedly like 28 minutes from the plane. The plane ended up turning around and going 30 minutes across the sea. Thank you, Christina. And finally, I believe in Kazakhstan, tried to land on just an open field. Hits the field. There's video of all of this. Horrific. Hits the field, and it's coming in very steep and then levels off, hits the field. Fire breaks out on the plane. Horrific fireball. Everyone who, basically the people in the back of the plane survived, 28 of them or so. The back of the plane survived, everybody else killed. 40 people killed. The Russians say, oh, must have been a bird strike. And everyone's, now mind you, the entire world is now looking at video because somebody in Kazakhstan filmed the plane because they said, oh my God, what is this plane? Because they could tell the plane was doing all sorts of weird maneuvers. They filmed it and put the video up. Well, let me show you the bird strike. Russia had the nerve to suggest this was a bird strike. Thank you, Succeed. Let me show you this, okay? This is, hold on here. I'm showing my coupons from the store. We don't want to show you that. This is the Russian bird strike. I will show you guys up close, okay? This is only a small portion of the back of the plane. The entire back of the plane looks like this. These are the mighty birds that they have in Russia, okay? Now, anybody, military or aviation, will tell you that is not bird damage. Birds do not bore into planes, destroy life jackets. Some of the life vests people had holes in them because they were in the thing. The life vest had a hole in it, and the holes come out the other side of the plane, right? Birds do not bore holes in planes that go through the plane and then out the other side. What does do this is anti-aircraft weapons, surface-to-air missiles, things like that, right? This is shrapnel. Everybody says this is shrapnel. The Russians had the nerve to claim this was a bird strike, possibly. So we've now got the plane on the ground. Everybody can see the holes. The holes are from some kind of attack, right? Russia, for whatever reason, refuses to let this plane was falling apart. Russia refused to let it land at the airport it was flying to. Okay, that's a little weird. Russia refused to let the plane land at 2 other Russian airports. The plane had to fly back across the sea in order to go back to Azerbaijan or Kazakhstan. That's when the plane crashed. Now, one hypothesis, just a hypothesis, is that the Russians did not want this plane to make it back to land. That once the Russians realized that basically the Russian military shot down another civilian airliner, they do this a lot. They've done it 3 times in my lifetime. Once they shot down the civilian airliner, they decided, or they tried to shoot it down. They realized what they'd done wrong. And they said, well, if these, and I read on Twitter, by the way, people said, well, there were survivors. You've got to talk to the survivors. They've got incredible information. They can tell you if they heard a pop, if they heard an explosion, what they saw. One theory, a Wall Street Journal reporter put out there, said one possibility is that the Russians wanted to kill everybody on board at this point because they didn't want the proof to get out there. And this Wall Street Journal reporter said that it is possible, at least one theory, that the Russians wanted the plane to, they didn't want it to land safely in Russia. They wanted it to go back across the Caspian Sea and crash land in the ocean, in the sea. Because if it lands in the sea, everybody dies. There's no witnesses. And if it lands in the sea, nobody gets their hands on the plane other than Russia and can see what happened, which now we all know it's got like bullet holes, shrapnel holes, right, in the back of the plane. Horrific story. The other thing we know, by the way, is in addition, thank you, Russell, for subscribing. The other thing we know is that the plane, right? So the plane looks like it got shot at by the Russians, civilian plane, okay? Thank you, Hannah. The Russians then refused to let the plane land in Russia. They don't let it land at the airport it's flying to. I mean, the plane is flying to, the flight plan is Grozny, okay? Thank you, Kronos. Thank you, Hannah. They won't let it land. As the plane is now leaving Russia, because 3 different Russian airports say, you're not landing here. What do the Russians do? They jammed the GPS on the plane. That was the other thing I forgot to tell you. Thank you, Doug. On its flight out of Russia, while the plane is desperately trying to hold in one piece, the pilots are trying to hold this in one piece, the Russians were jamming the GPS to take the plane down. I mean, you know, now what you should remember, some of you too young to remember, maybe, the Russians did something similar back in 2014 or 15, I think it was 14, remind me if I'm wrong, Ukrainian friends. The Russians shot down a civilian airliner, killing around 300 people. Was it MH17? I believe was the airline. Remind me, was it MH17? I don't want to get the number wrong. And somebody want to Google MH17? Thank you, Dave. 2014. Somebody Google the number of killed because I'd like to get that number precise. I believe it was 300, give or take, maybe 280 something. But somebody Google. The Russians, of course, denied it. Well, now we know the Russians blew up that plane too and killed everybody on board. They were actually one of the Russians was several, I think, but one of the Russians was indicted, or actually was convicted of war crimes. 283 killed. Okay, thank you, Renbox. 283 civilians killed. Thank you, Wayne, by the Russians. The Russians denied it over Ukraine. This was a plane filing, I think, from Amsterdam to the Middle East, maybe like Dubai or something like that. And the Russians lied about it. And the International Criminal Court, thank you, Russell, for the gift. The International Criminal Court found what's his face, the Russian, guilty of a war crime for bringing the plane down. And he's a former Russian military officer. He now is an intelligence officer, I should say. He's now in jail in Russia because Putin's angry at him because, of course, this is Russia, right? The other time the Russians did it was, remember back in the 1980s, KAL 007? Google it, Gherkin. Yeah, I think it was Gherkin. Exactly. Gherkin, I think, is the one who's now in prison because Putin's angry at him. Back in early 1980s, the Russians shoot down a Korean airliner. Again, they killed a very large number of people. The Soviets at this point, Soviets, Russians, the Soviets deny it. The Americans have the intelligence intercept of the entire communication recorded between the cockpit of the Russian plane at the fighter jet and Russian headquarters, saying, I see the plane. Should I fire? Yes, you should fire. Okay, target acquired, target fired, target destroyed. And Jean Kirkpatrick, who was the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, who was just a wonderful, she taught at Georgetown. I did sit in one of her classes once. Amazing woman. She got there. Ronald Reagan at this point was president. She goes to the United Nations Security Council and has like pictures up and plays the entire audio, the Russian audio with the subtitles, with the Russian, the Russian ambassador sitting there, and basically called them liars and called them murderers. This is not the first time Russia has blown up civilians. We still need to find out if this time they blew up civilians. We don't know. A U.S. official just said that it is likely Russia did it. The Azerbaijan government is demanding Russia apologize for it. It's really, really, really freaking wild. Well, the one the Russians did in the 80s, I remember it being a big jet, but at the same time, I think there was a U.S. congressman, a Republican congressman on board as well. That was a big, that was Googling, KAL, Korean Airlines 007. Yeah, but this is who they are. This is who they are. So who knows, Who knows? But yeah, big story today. It's just, God, again, like, if you do it, if there's a possibility you did it, don't admit it because you don't know yet, but say, this is horrific. We need to find the truth, right? And by the way, if it's true that 3 of our airports refused to let the plane land, including the airport the plane was already scheduled to go to, we are going to find out what went wrong and we are going to make, that's what you say. You don't say, you don't say you're guilty because you don't know, but you say, if this is true, this is outrageous and we're going to find out what happened. La, la, la. And nothing will happen because it's Russia. Correct, Tony. That's exactly right. Exactly right. No, it's really disgusting. Honestly, it looks like what it looks like. Congressman Larry McDonald, he was also a member of the John Birch Society, which was funny because they're like, crazy far right wing, anti-Soviet, etc. I was anti-Soviet, but they're like from another planet, right wing. I forgot I was going to say what else with this now. I'm looking at the birds, beep, deep, deep. I don't know if there was something else I was going to tell you about the Russian going after this plane. In any case, yeah. So let's see what happens. I think all you're going to need is some experts who know aviation and who know or military. I would say aviation and or military are going to be able to look at that shrapnel and immediately say, look at the holes and say it's shrapnel, right? Somebody mentioned machine guns. Experts will know looking at it. It's pretty bad. Now, it's funny. Robert's saying, I wonder who's on the manifest. I told you guys, I tend to not believe in conspiracies. I tend to like, by the way, haven't heard much about those drones, have you, in the last week and a half? Right? Right? What, did the aliens suddenly get bored with us? I mean, maybe, but but I still think that the Russians basically, how do I want to put this? They're not exactly A-listers when it comes to countries in terms of development, in terms of their military. Okay. The Russians would like to believe that they're our equal. They're not militarily, among other things. And their military kind of sucks. And they shot down a civilian airliner because they thought it was a drone, or they thought it was a Ukrainian drone, or they thought it was a Ukrainian plane. That's all. Now, mind you, pretty bad, though, that not only did you shoot it, thank you, Kronos, not only did you shoot the plane, but you then ended up jamming it its entire flight to try to bring it down. A little weird. Thank you, Chazak. Which starts to make you think, at this point, they knew it was a plane. Right? That at this point, they knew it was a civilian plane and they wanted to bring it down. I don't know, guys. Pretty freaking weird. The whole story is pretty freaking weird. Any case, yes, Sword for Justice just tweeted, per CNN, 38 people died, 29 survivors. I just can't believe that many people survived. Who are spamming? User 919, you're spamming a little bit. You need to stop. Don't spam. The mods are going to get ticked at you. Anyway, that's what I think, Aubrey. I don't think it was intentional. I think it's a lack of professionalism. But then the question becomes, why didn't they let the plane land in Grozny when it was in trouble? Why didn't they let it land at 2 other Russian airports when it was in trouble? Why did they make it leave Russian airspace? I mean, it literally was a commercial plane scheduled to land in Russia. The airport it was scheduled to land at said no once the plane was in distress. That starts to look intentional. That looks like, as Bob just said, cover up. That starts to look intentional. Thank you, Diana. I think the attack was a mistake. Let me rephrase this. The most likely explanation is that the attack on the plane was a mistake. They thought it was a drone. They thought it was a Ukrainian plane. Right after the plane got on the horn and said, hello, we need to land. you just shot us. That they didn't know it was a civilian plane at that point? Thank you, Diana. They knew at that point, and they said no. Then it goes from, thank you, Letty, then it goes from being unintentional to something intentional, right? It's unintentional, you shot the plane. It's intentional if you tried to cover up shooting the plane by not letting it land, by sending it far away and hoping it crashes in the water, which is the theory that the Wall Street Journal reporter didn't necessarily endorse, but posited out there. Really freaking horrible story here. I mean, you know, it's bad. Well, the only thing is, Jens was asking us about it, is at least what we know now is the pilot wanted to land in Grozny, the airport it was heading for in Russia. They said no. It wanted to land in 2 other Russian airports. They said no. So it's not a matter of the pilot not wanting to. They literally wanted to, and the Russians said no. That's what we know right now. Really horrible. I mean, really horrible. Well, level of coordination to get 3 airports to say no, almost. Actually, that's a very interesting point, Waiting. That's a very good point. You're right. If 3 Russian airports are saying no, it's because somebody very high up told them to say no, which means this went from being a local military shooting at the plane, probably, to somebody high up going, don't you dare let them land. You know, let's see. Like you said, the voice recorder will tell them something. Although the voice recorder, I mean, honestly, they've got the plane. They've got the holes in the plane. They're going to know. Well, I don't know. Callum, our birthday boy, is here. I'm hoping some of the others as well. They should know, looking at these holes alone, what hit it. I'm assuming they should know if it's shrapnel. They should know if it's bullets. They should know, right? And if it's shrapnel, I'm going to guess by looking at the shrapnel, you will have a sense of what the shrapnel came from, what kind of weapon. The other thing is, are you telling me that would there not be shrapnel also, or bullets, or whatever it is inside the wreckage? Would that not also be the case? I would assume. Like, I'm assuming, I don't know if anybody here is aviation minded, or again, military. I would think a lot of that information you can get, you know, but I'm saying, of course, it looks like shrapnel too. I mean, what do I know, right? I mean, I'm a foreign policy guy, not a shrapnel and planes guys. But I'm assuming once you get your hands on the plane, you can have a much better sense of what it was that hit it, you know? A missile from a Russian Panzer missile system. I saw people suggest that possibility. Yes. Yes. Bjorn sent a heart. Thank you, Bjorn. Only survivors were in the tail pictures. That's what we heard. Correct. Yep. Could be engine shrapnel from birds. Engine shrapnel from birds? What does that mean? I'm not sure. What do you mean? Who was on the plane? Again, maybe the Russians wanted to take out the plane on purpose. It's possible. It's possible. But I suspect it was more a mistake. Solek says the pilots did a great job getting the plane to land somewhere. They probably missed getting to an airport due to the GPS jamming. That's interesting too. Yeah. No, they're saying from the videos, you could tell the pilots apparently were having a very hard time hitting it. Yeah, no, the Russians were the ones who said it was a bird strike, Peaches. And then everybody looked at the pictures and said, are you kidding me? I know they say you should sit in the end of the plane. I must admit, like, I like sitting at the front in order to get out easily. I used to always sit in the back. Now that I've got my dog, I sit in front because it's a pain with the dog. Like when I didn't have the dog, I would sit in back and I was like, I don't care if I walk out last. With the dog, I'm kind of like, get me out of here. But crazy stuff. I mean, crazy stuff. Planes are designed to fly into birds. Anyway, all right, guys, let's do the rest of the news here. What else we got here? Oh, this cracked me up. So we've just been talking about the Russians, possibly blowing up the plane. And what does CBS report about it, or just report on it in general, Frank? I'm assuming CBS is saying the same thing that Azerbaijan is saying. It looks like it's the Russians. And at least one American official said it's likely the Russians. That's my guess. I don't think there's anything new other than that. Several survivors evacuated to Moscow. Well, I guess they're Russians, so they're trusting their own government. But geez, I would not want to do that. We will get to Finland. So the Russian foreign minister, this one kind of made me crack up. The Russian foreign minister is claiming, Lavrov, that the Ukrainians are attacking civilians in Russia and using Western weapons. And oh my God, we're going to get you. Several levels here of irony and lies and humor. One, the Russians claiming somebody else is attacking civilians is a pretty hardy, har moment. We just got done talking about a civilian airliner. It looks like the Russians shot down. The Russians routinely attack civilians in Ukraine. And I always make this point because it is important for people to know in view of Israel and everything else. Some countries commit war crimes, by the way, by not caring about killing civilians. Other countries like Russia commit war crimes by intentionally killing civilians and targeting them. Russia is unique in, I would say, modern history, at least. Certainly modern of the last several years. You're hard pressed to find other countries where, you may find like some regimes in Africa or something, right? But of a developed country, if you want to call Russia that, you would be very hard pressed to find any developed country in years who routinely said, in this war, we'll attack military targets occasionally, but let's attack civilian targets and kill as many civilians as possible. You would be very hard pressed to find a developed country that adopts that as a military strategy, to literally attack civilians and not military. That's what Russia does. Russia routinely attacks civilians. It has from the beginning of the war. Russia has done this for years. At the beginning of the war, military experts even said, this is going to be bad because Russia routinely attacks civilians as a matter of policy, a matter of military policy. So in any case, it's pretty funny to have the Russian foreign minister, generally speaking, to express concern about Ukrainians targeting civilians when Ukrainians do not target civilians. It's funny for Russia to complain about targeting civilians the day after it looks like Russia just shot a civilian airplane out of the sky, and then maybe tried to force it down by not letting it land in Russia. It's also funny to me. Here's what's also funny. The Russian foreign minister says, listen to this. He says, Russia targets only military facilities and infrastructure. It's not in our rules to strike civilian targets. Complete freaking lie. But then, listen to this. They then said that Moscow will respond if the West continues to let Ukraine use Western weapons to strike Russian civilians. Okay, a couple things here. It's year 3 of the war at this point. We're at our third year in February. When exactly does Moscow plan on responding? Right? Did you get it again? But the reason I'm reading this is, oh, Moscow will respond if we're not careful. Yeah, I think he told us that 3 times a week for the last 3 years. That would be 150 times. The Russians have said, if you're not careful, we'll respond. I don't believe them anymore, and neither should you. Right? If somebody threatens you 150 times and doesn't respond, or with what looks like the Russians did again, it looks like they cut another communications cable. And you know what? It's obnoxious. It's childish. They did this one between Finland and I guess Estonia. It looks like it's Russia. They've got a Russian vessel impounded the Finns and they're investigating. You know, it's the kind of thing a child would do. I mean, I guess cutting off my cable TV for a couple hours is rude, right? If I'm Estonian or Finnish, but it's not exactly big boy world power kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Again, for 3 years, I don't want the Russians to do anything to us, but for 3 years, the Russians have been threatening to get us. And they literally decided to be the cable guy that cut cable TV to some Finns for a night. Ooh, scary. I mean, I just, this is why I tell you guys, whenever the Russians threaten, they can't touch us. All they can do is stuff like this. All they can do is, cut the cable lines to Finns because they're mad at them for joining NATO. Again, it's the kind of stuff, it's the international equivalent. Actually, let me go one step further. It's the developing country equivalent of egging a house is what Russia does. They throw the eggs and then they run and go, we didn't do it. You're like, okay, really? I mean, it's so immature. It's so freaking immature. I don't know this time what the line was though. Do we know, was it a comm line again or power? LB's asking. I don't know. This time I actually don't know which one it was. Thank you, Yoreed, for the gift. And Rat Lady, glad I've been making you feel better. Was it? Oh, Jens says it was power. It was power this time. Okay, so Russia killed the lights for a few hours. Okay. Honestly, the Estonians and the Finns should return the favor and kill the power to Moscow for a few hours. I mean, you've got to you have to hold the Russians responsible for this stuff. If you don't, they're just going to keep doing it. And it's obnoxious and it's childish, but I'm a big believer in the only way to, get childish people to behave is to treat them like children and punish them, right? If they're going to behave like children, treat them like children. If they decide to cut the power, tell them they don't get dessert tonight, cut their power. I mean, they'll learn their lesson. And I will say about the Israelis, putting aside what the Israelis have done the last couple of years with Gaza, Israel has always been quite, actually, even Gaza, Israel has always been quite clear since its creation 75 years ago. If you screw around with Israel, they will blow the crap out of you. And Hamas knew this, this is why it gets complicated for some people when they discuss Gaza, because Hamas knew this was going to happen. Hamas knew when they mass murdered the Israelis, and people from all over the world actually, mass murdered over 1,000 people, that Israel was going to blow the crap out of them, because that's what Israel does. Israel always blows the crap out of you when you attack them in order to make clear, don't you attack them. So Hamas knew it. I'm forgetting why I'm bringing it up in this context. Oh, the Russians and everything. Yeah. I mean, but it's putting Gaza aside. It is not a bad strategy for your enemies to know that if you attack them unjustly, you will be attacked back 10 times harder. And Russia maybe needs a little bit of schooling on that front. What else we got here? Oh, power cables. You're funny. You know what's funny? I asked you guys whether it was power or not, and the next story I have in my notes, investigations are underway after power cables were cut. So, okay, I did have it in my notes. I just hadn't really checked them. It looks like this is interesting too. It looks like the Ukrainians sank a Russian cargo ship. You can always tell because the Ukrainians kind of report something happening, but they don't take credit. And you're like, why is Ukraine reporting that a Russian cargo ship sank, right? You're like, okay, listen to this. A Russian cargo ship was sent to Syria to collect weapons. It was reportedly sunk by an act of terrorism. An engine room explosion sank the Ursa Major off the coast of Spain, after which 2 crew members were missing and 14 others had to be rescued. The ship's owner said it was targeted in a terrorist act, according to the Russian news agency. Ukraine's military intelligence has claimed the ship, previously called Sparta 3, was sent to Syria to remove weapons and military equipment after the fall of Bashar Assad. So, oops, gotta love the Ukrainians. Final thing I was going to mention today, and then we can just do our hangout, is Trump decided to do his usual weird thing he does on holidays when Trump likes to celebrate very important American holidays by yelling and screaming like a toddler and acting like an immature or emotionally damaged person. Yesterday, it's not just weird. Like, as an American, I think anybody, you want your president, whether you voted for them or not, you'd like them to act like an adult. You'd like them to act like they don't have emotional damage, that they're not psychologically crazy. Thank you, Jenna. And again, any party, even if I didn't vote for the guy and don't like the guy, I'd like him not to be crazy. That'd be nice. And to be mature, ethical, moral helps too. Well, Trump on holidays always goes crazy and thinks it's funny, especially religious holidays. Trump thinks it's funny to hate people on religious holidays. And he'll usually go after like Democrats and others and people. He'll literally use words like hate. It's really very disturbing. Again, Christmas is like at least one of the arguably two biggest Christian holidays of the year. Not arguably, it is one of the two biggest Christian holidays of the year. Thank you, T-Bone. Thank you, Big Hawk. Thank you. Who's that? Ernie as well, I think. Did Ernie have a gift? I thought Ernie had a gift in there. Thank you, T-Bone. But T-Bone and Big Hawk, I thought I saw that. Sometimes it hides from me who the gifts were. So Trump decided to issue like a huge tweet series of statements yesterday and threatening to basically invade Canada, invade Panama, invade Greenland. Trump had previously already threatened to bomb Gaza. So what we've got right now is Trump isn't president yet. He's only been president-elect for 6 weeks. It's been 6 weeks since the election, and Trump has already threatened to go to war in Panama, in Greenland, against Denmark, against Europe. Canada, Greenland, Denmark, Panama, and Gaza was the other one that he's talked about bombing. Again, like Trump ran Mexico. I think I put Mexico. I thought I put Mexico. There's one of the four: Mexico, Canada, Greenland, Gaza. Yep. Now Trump ran. One of the things he ran on was putting an end to all these wars, all these warmongers, the Democrats are war. It's funny to call Democrats warmongers because Democrats are like, it's Republicans who are the ones that usually like to go to war, not the Democrats. But the Democrats are warmongers. He's just threatened to like blow up to attack 4 countries, or maybe it is 5. No, wait, yeah, Canada, Mexico. Well, Mexico, some of his people are talking about bombing, but Canada, actually they did talk about annexing. Some of them talked about annexing Mexico. Canada, definitely, possibly Mexico. Panama for sure, Greenland, which is Denmark-ish, and Gaza. Sure, it's like 5 actually. Five threats of war from Trump, and he's not even president yet. But this is what he does. This is what you get when you vote for somebody who's a pathological liar. They pathologically lie, and he ran on an anti-war platform, and he's threatened war 5 times now. It's like, oh well, serves you right, people. So it is 5. I forget about the 5. Yeah. Well, Mexico. It depends how you put Mexico, because Mexico, I don't know that I don't remember if Trump has overtly threatened to annex Mexico, but some of his MAGA supporters have talked about annexing Mexico, which I find very funny too, because they're talking about annexing Mexico, and it's like, oh, so you want to make, what's the population of Mexico? Like 60 million or something? It's not. There's 30 million, is it? What's the population of Mexico? Maybe just 30. Oh, 130 million. Oh my God. 130 million people. Oh, I know what it was. They're talking about annexing the top portion of Mexico that has like 30 million people, which made me laugh because I was like, oh, so now MAGA wants to bring 30 million more Mexicans into America? Okay. I mean, I'm fine with it. I like Mexicans. I've been to Mexico several times. Lovely country, great people, great food, actually, culture. But, kind of funny that the MAGA people who are like trying to kick all the Mexicans out and now want to bring 30 million more. It's like, okay, a little weird, but that's fine. What do you do? Anyway, so that's what we got. All right, guys. So yeah, let's hang and talk. So yes, this is the part we get to hang. Now the question is whether I'm kind of trying to like what's going on with the Panama Canal. I've been trying to Google this, and I'm not getting a straight answer on what's going on with the Panama Canal because Trump is pissed off at the fees. There's large fees that the Panamanians say are necessary, but Trump is talking about the Chinese doing something. Now, as always with Trump, it annoys me because not as always. Trump is very often just crazy. Sometimes there's like an ounce of truth to the crazy, like getting upset at Europeans for not spending enough on their own defense. That is a valid point. Trump, of course, takes it to crazy land and invites Russia to invade Europe, which he did a couple of years ago. Then you get into crazy land with Trump. And it's kind of the same thing here. Like I've been trying to figure out, okay, Jeffrey says China runs some of the ports on both ends of the canal. I've been trying to sort of get the whole story on what's going on with China and the canal. Kep says supposedly the Chinese are attempting control of the ports at both ends of the canal. That is something that the U.S. should, frankly, get involved in. The problem is I want to know it's true. I'm not going to trust Trump about it. And Trump kind of makes the Luigi problem here, the Luigi mistake, which is if you're going to threaten violence or do violence, you better explain yourself well. This is my problem. I mean, I have a lot of problems with Luigi. One of my problems with Luigi is he didn't explain why he did it. He just said, the guy who killed the health insurance executive, he just said, well, everybody knows health insurance companies are bad. It's not really a justification for murder, just that everybody knows. And if you're going to murder somebody, have a better explanation. Like you better have a much better explanation for it than, well, everybody knows they're bad. He didn't. Read his little statement again. And he said, America spends the most on healthcare and we're one of the lowest outcomes. Yeah, we all know that. Like literally, unless you're in college, maybe a 17-year-old in college, you aren't familiar with that fact. The rest of us are. So I think I put Luigi in this camp, but Trump's in the same camp. If the Chinese are really screwing around with the Panama Canal, thank you, Saints. If the Chinese are screwing around with the Panama Canal, we should come down hard on Panama. Absolutely. China, 0% chance that we let China get any kind of influence or control over the Panama Canal. 0% that we do that. But explain, right? Like, I was Googling and was not getting too straight of an answer as to what was going on with China, to be honest. Anyway. The stuff about Greenland is insane. His stuff with with Canada is just insane. It's very. I think it is, Darth. Like I said, the Luigi thing. My concern with the Luigi thing, I'm going to talk about Luigi again. My concern with the Luigi thing is it's Trumpy. It's MAGA-y. It's one thing to look and say, yeah, those guys are violent, right? Those guys tried to violently overthrow the government. Trump always talks about violence. He's always talking about violence. He's talking about, not just throwing his political opponents in jail, but killing people, right? Targets on Hillary Clinton, this kind of stuff. And it's one thing to accuse them of it and be worried about our country because of how bad Trump and MAGA is. It's an entire other thing when our own normal people in the middle and on the left say that, yeah, it's okay to go on the street and assassinate just some corporate executive because you don't like his industry. That is fucked up. That's just absolutely, I'm sorry. I still think it's fucked up. I know some of the regulars got pissed at me for one regular got pissed at me for saying that, but it's very fucked up. Thank you, Nisha. If you're going to, the problem is also TikTok, YouTube, probably TikTok. We can't talk about this issue too much. You can talk about it, but TikTok, TikTok's rules are always so weird. Thank you, Running. I will just put it that way. If you're going to do something like what he did, if you live in the Soviet Union, maybe, right? Like you live in a totalitarian, like you live in North Korea and you're trying to take down the government, maybe you resort to some very serious things, right? America being upset at healthcare companies, this is not what you do unless you're a nut job, as far as I'm concerned, or a MAGA, somebody who embraces violence. Well, somebody did it. Somebody did it. True. He's alleged, right? He's alleged. We have to say alleged But if it was done for this, I think it's really screwed up. So anyway, I don't want to talk about Luigi. I get tired of talking about Luigi, Although I think it's my fault this time. I may have been the one that started the Luigi talk. Sorry. My fault. What else we got? What else we got today, folks? Oh, well, actually, we're going to go see the Christmas lights tonight in one of the suburbs, which will be very nice out here. How about Ukraine? What about Ukraine, James? We talked about it a lot already tonight. You may be coming late. We did talk about Ukraine. Not much on the drones, by the way. Oh, I mean, do I think they got the right guy with Luigi? I mean, if they're telling the truth, they've got a gun, they've got a confession, a written confession. I mean, they've got his DNA at the crime scene. Again, if all of that's, and if he's not the guilty party, thank you, T-Sten. If he's not the guilty cop party, why did he turn and scream whatever that weird thing he screamed at the cameras, like that first or second day when he was being transported, maybe the second day? If you're innocent, you get arrested for murder, you're going to be freaking out. I would think, I've never been there, but I would think you'd be absolutely freaking out and going and crying and saying, wait, you're some 25-year-old, I say kid, meaning you're young, and you didn't do it? You're going, help me, please, I didn't do this. You've got to find out who did this. That's what I'd be yelling at the cameras. I didn't do this, please. Like, I would want them to see how, so that people would look and go, he looks like he's actually upset. He doesn't look like somebody who did this, rather than going, America, right? I mean, his weird little screech was it looked to me like the kind of thing a crazy person does. I think he's crazy. Terry says crazy. I think he is too. Yeah, I mean, you should keep your mouth shut too. But I got to tell you, if I were like accused of murder, I would literally, if I had a camera around, I would still say, I didn't do this. Please, you've got to find who did. This is not right. And so at least people would look and go, huh? But he was angry, and he displayed the kind of anger that A, to me looks crazy, and B, looks like the kind of crazy angry that you do if you're going to shoot a healthcare CEO on the street. So didn't help. So don't know if Ukraine's using their newest long-range missiles. I don't know. We'll have to see if Vlad's around this weekend. We can ask him if Vlad can say. My guess is Vlad knows things. My Ukrainian friend Vlad, he knows things and typically can't. Not typically, but something like that, he'd be like, I don't know. I can say anything. You're like, okay, never mind. What else we got, guys? Oh, we're not going to go too late tonight. Like I said, we're going to see some Christmas lights in one of the nearby suburbs. Thank you, Iggy, which will be very nice. Updates on Britain? I don't know what's going on in Britain to update. Courtney? Or is that's not Britain? I thought there was a British flag. What is that? Is that Finland? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. Georgia? Okay, I don't have Georgia. I don't have my glasses on. Right, Georgia has the red cross in the middle. Sorry, I don't have glasses on. I can't see. It looked like the British flag for a second. I was like, there's red, blue, and white. Yeah, the Biden-Harris thing, not much happened. I don't even know if it's real that they canceled their plans. People mentioned that a few days ago, and then the story went away, which makes me feel like, see you, Libre. Appreciate that. I know, Squinting Squad President, I know. Yeah, I have heard nothing about this Biden thing. I'm going to Google it right now, but I think when I first heard it, I looked it up, and there was like nothing. So I am suspicious. To me, it sounds like MAGA misinformation as usual. Yeah, there's literally nothing. I mean, I'm going to pull up the news. There's literally nothing here. There's nothing here. Yeah, if Biden and Harris were, cancel their plans and we're at the White House, somebody would have reported it besides Crazyland. Yeah, there's literally nothing here in the news. Okay. That to me, once again, remember my theory, we don't believe conspiracy theories. I'm at my sister's house. Germany, what about Germany? Oh, the German, I didn't see any news today. Actually, not news for the last couple of days about the terrorist attack, the one that the fan of Elon Musk and the fan of the German neo-fascist party committed. You You won't be able to be here on Saturday. We will be doing it again. We'll be here next weekend too. Well, Saturday's for the paid monthly subscribers anyway. So you're not invited Saturday. On TikTok, it's everybody who's got SNN next to their name. They're the monthly subscribers. I don't mean to be rude, but don't come Saturday. You won't get in. But thank you for thinking of it. Denmark counteroffered to buy the U.S. That would be very funny, actually. That would be very funny. Mike says, Azerbaijani officials tell local media that Russia hit the flight with an anti-aircraft missile and then jammed electronics and denied permission to land in 3 airports. There you go. That's what I was saying. Yeah. 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 North Korea committing another 90,000 troops? Possibly, yes, because, Rob, what we had heard was North Korea had like committed or sent 12,000 troops to Russia, Ukraine, right? But then we also heard that North Korea had committed like possibly a total of 100,000 troops overall. And that, thank you, Emily, appreciate that, that basically at any one time, North Korea has 10 or 12,000 troops or whatever, then they get killed, they get injured. Supposedly, now I think maybe I don't know if it's 3,000 killed or wounded. I don't know if it's 3,000 killed yet, but maybe 3,000 killed or wounded. That means they're down to 9,000 troops. They need 3,000 more in principle. Now, instead of just 12,000 troops, now they got 15,000 troops because the 3,000 are being replaced, right? So what I had heard was not necessarily that the North Koreans were going to send 100,000 troops to the border, but that North Koreans were going to send 100,000 troops overall in a staggered basis where every time somebody got killed, they sent a new guy in. Every time somebody got injured, they'd send a new guy. So over time, possibly 100,000 troops. Anyway, that was what the thinking was a couple of weeks ago. Who knows what happens next, but that's what they were saying. Yeah. Exactly. The Russians would be freaky. Well, obviously the Russians would be freaky if a Ukrainian missile took one of their planes down, but this is Russia, What else? Yes, the dog is doing well. She's underneath here on her little bed, making her little, as I said, old lady sleeping noises, old person sleeping noises, kind of like heavy breathing. This isn't quite snoring, but it's something. It's cute. Yeah, so far there have been good reports of the Ukrainians really taking out a lot of the North Koreans, so we'll see, Reports are, Rob says that Russia paid $315 million for the first 11,000 soldiers, meaning that Russia paid $28,000 per North Korean soldier. Wow. Yeah, it's kind of this like kind of breathing she's doing. It's very funny. Well, that's the other thing is people were saying that the North Korean soldiers haven't fought since the 1950s. They may not be very good at this. Now it's giving them some experience, which is helpful if they survive. But they may not be very good at this, which is interesting. North Korea's army, God, 1 or 2 million? What is it, folks? Did somebody just say 1 million? I'm trying to remember. What's the size of the North Korean army? I think it's over 1 million. It's big. It's like one of the biggest in the world, I think, except we don't know how good it is. Another fake person. I'm going to guess that's a fake person. Looks fake to me. Now that oh, it is a fake person. Now the fake people are sending and calling me. That's even weirder. Okay, we're gonna let that go. I don't know what the hell that is. That's weird. I don't know what that is. I think that's somebody text me, "Good evening, happy belated Merry Christmas." Right? Let me repeat that. Good evening, comma, space, right? So there's 2 spaces. Happy belated Merry Christmas. Oh, I guess happy belated Merry Christmas? That might work. Happy belated Merry Christmas? I don't know. And then I got a phone call from the same thing. Maybe it's real. I'm not going to answer it. Maybe it's real. I don't think so. Let's see. I don't think it's my doctor's office calling. I don't see. They called and they hung up. Sure. Again, the big thing is the 2 spaces after good evening, comma, space. Like, yep. Oh my God. Oh, this is hilarious. Why would I do that? Otto from Nigeria? Otto from Nigeria. Why would Otto from they're even admitting they're from Nigeria now, but it's giving me a number in Maryland. Otto from Nigeria. I don't know anybody in Nigeria. Happy belated Merry Christmas. Otto from Nigeria, just calling to say hello. Sure, Otto. Sorry, now I'm looking at my phone and I'm gonna like look up his number and see if it's in here, and I'm losing my mind. No such human being in my phone. There's a surprise. Otto from Nigeria. Well, the Nigeria thing, I mean, admitting you're calling from, that you're a Nigerian is at least interesting. But I could hear like his kids in the background too. Calls from Nigeria might be scams, you think? Yeah, Otto's royalty needs money. I mean, weird. Nigeria. Also, I mean, I'm sorry, but I got news for you. There aren't that many Nigerians, at least in Washington, D.C. I don't think I've ever met a Nigerian. Maybe occasional, thank you, Norway, occasionally Uber drivers that are Nigerian, occasionally. But like calling and saying you're Nigerian is not exactly something where everyone goes, oh, I knew a Nigerian once. It must be him. It's like, sure. Yeah, Otto was an old UN coworker, exactly. I don't know any Nigerians. Yeah. I'll give him credit for texting and then calling, but again, happy belated. But my favorite though is the good afternoon, comma, space. As soon as they get the wrong spaces and stuff, except this person sounded real, they often are the scammers using software and stuff. What are going to be the repercussions for Russia if they did shoot down the passenger plane? Nothing. They may have concerns with. I mean, their neighbors may not be like the Azerbaijanis may not be very happy with them. But but who knows? Yeah, Uber driver named Otto, maybe, except I don't give my phone number to Uber drivers. Otto from Nigeria, and I'm hearing like his family in the background, like a wife and kid in the background too. I'm like, okay, this is just a little weird. Yeah, thank you, JPT, for the gifts. Very strange. Yeah, reminds me for the UN. That is pretty funny though. Yeah, Russia will receive a strongly worded letter. That's exactly it. No, Russia's not going to pay the price. They never pay the price. What do? They never pay the price. So, what stays? Washington, D.C. is its own sort of municipality. It's its own, what do we call it? It's not any state. It's not in a state. It's a federal district. It's basically, well, it was federal land. Now a lot of it is a city, but it's a city that's not in any state. It's in its own area, which is weird. It's very weird. Yeah, makes no sense. Correct. So we end up having a representative in the House of Representatives, but we don't have a senator. So there's no one representing us in the U.S. Senate. It's crazy. Yep. So. Why does who care if people know? I'm trying to remember what we were talking about a second ago, Gilly. If a NATO nation tries to acquire another nation, will that trigger? We talked about this, about what happens when NATO countries attack each other. I'm assuming if a NATO country attacks each other, Article 5, I shouldn't say it. I think we asked about this before and it wasn't totally clear. Thank you, JPT. We'd have to look at the language. Of the NATO charter. I would have assumed if a NATO country attacked another country, the NATO charter would kick in and the one on the defensive side would get defended. But I don't know. I don't remember. But I thought we looked into this before. I know we talked about it before. Your uncle used to have to drive through DC. Yeah, I don't know. Rob is saying an additional report that Ukraine has gone through 50% of their eligible military soldiers over the past 3 years. I do know there was concern about Ukraine having enough young men to even draft. The Americans are pushing them to draft more young men, like 18 to 21, and the Ukrainians are like, we don't have that many. And the country could be in trouble if they end up, basically losing all those young men. But in any case, I don't know any more about it, but I know the Ukrainians say that things are a little more complicated than the Americans say. The proposed tariff thing. I didn't mention. I was going to mention the tariff thing, Daryl. Wall Street Journal had an article today about Trump's proposed. Came out yesterday about Trump's tariffs, and basically they said that It's going to be the biggest problem for cheap cars. The cheapest cars are the most endangered by Trump's tariffs. Cars $30,000 and less, 1/3 of cars $30,000 and less are assembled in Mexico, and they would be hit with Trump's 25% tariff. And therefore, it would hurt people the most who basically have less money because, in principle, right? Some rich people buy cheap cars, but no poor people buy rich cars, expensive cars, right? So it's going to hit poor people worse. One of the analysis, according to the Wall Street Journal, was it said that one of the analyses out there is that Trump's tariffs could add $3,000 to the price tag of every single car in America instantly. A tariff, remember, is a tax you put on goods coming into the country. The problem is Trump has been playing people here. All the economists, even Republicans, are aghast at this. But Trump keeps pretending like, oh, he's going to put the tariff on Mexico and make the Mexicans pay. That's not the way tariffs work. The way tariffs work is anybody in America that buys a good from Mexico, the price just went up 25% on that good. Now, initially, typically when you buy stuff from Mexico that's been made in Mexico, we don't go to Mexico and buy it. We don't call Mexico and say, send it to us. Typically, we buy it from an intermediate. I'm forgetting what you call it in economic terms, but an intermediary, right? We go to Costco, we go to Walmart, we go to the grocery store, right? We go to some local store that has the Mexican product. They had to pay somebody to get it. Now, maybe they paid another wholesaler, an importer, maybe they even contracted with a company in Mexico, but somebody in the US has to pay 25% more to get that product before it comes to you. Do you think the price is going up 25% on that car and they're not passing it to you? Good luck at that. So that was the latest story. And again, Wall Street Journal, very conservative financial paper here in the States, and they say that Trump's tariffs are going to be really bad for cars. So yeah, not fun. Thank you, Crazy American. It's crazy. It's going to be very bad if he goes through with this. But again, FAFO, F around, find out. People were told he's going to increase inflation. He even said Elon Musk was asked about inflation and the economy and said, well, it may be hard there may be some tough times coming or something weird like that. And everybody was like, and again, you voted for him anyway. He admitted he was going to make the economy worse and people voted for him. It's like, oh, well, it's crazy. Oh, the dog may be heading for her I need to go out moment, which isn't a bad time to quit because we are going to be leaving maybe in 45 minutes to go to the Christmas lights, and we have to have dinner first. So I may do a good night to you all. Tomorrow I am flying back to DC, so there will be no show tomorrow, but I will be back Saturday morning for I'm coming, dog. I'll be back Saturday morning for the show for paid subscribers on TikTok, YouTube, and Discord. So I'll be on Discord, I'll be on TikTok, I'll be on YouTube, 11 a.m. Eastern time Saturday morning. So join us for that. And otherwise, I'll be back Monday. Monday is my show for everybody. Monday to Friday, 6 o'clock Eastern time, US. New Year's, we'll figure that out. I don't know. New Year's Eve. I don't normally do things New Year's Eve, but we can see. We saw, the dog is crawling here. Okay, I did not see that, Rob, but I'll Google it because that sounds kind of fun. All right, guys, have a good evening. Hope you all had a good Christmas, and I will see some of you Saturday morning and the rest of you Monday. Okay? Okay. Good night, everybody. Well, I help get my dog some water and take her out. She did pretty good. She did pretty well considering.